earlier this week, collaborators from academic institutions, the Indigenous community, government, and industry signed a report offering a comprehensive outline of how climate change is making those wildfires worse and what governments should be doing to manage the situation. Our Joanna Wagstaff has read through that paper and spoken with many authors today. And Joe, what is the big takeaway from this?
So, Janella, this white paper, as they're calling it, co-authored by 7 prominent wildfire scientists, both in BC, Canada, and in fact in Spain. But it is signed by dozens of supporters, as you mentioned, many in the Indigenous community, in industry like tourism and forestry, because the wildfire and the smoke impacting so many people this season. So while this paper is a culmination of these scientists' work over the past decades when it comes to the fires in BC, it is an advocacy paper. So that's different than a peer-reviewed paper. It can come out a lot faster, as it has in this case, as an event is unfolding. And many of these scientists have been working on the wildfire problem in BC for decades, and they've released these white papers, and they've been parts of reports after a bad wildfire season in the past. And they say not only are we not actioning this fast enough, but climate change is happening so much faster than our earlier models predicted. In fact, our wildfire season 40 to 80 days longer than just 30 years ago. So I spoke to one of the co-authors, Robert Gray, earlier today about the timescale of the solution they're talking about. Take a listen.
So our solutions have to be for the long haul, and they're currently not. You know, we react to a crisis and we throw some money at it for a couple of years, and then we move off to the next crisis, and we're not gaining any ground. We're losing ground, and the issue is fuels are dynamic. They don't stop growing.
So, Janella, the paper is suggesting systematic change. We need cross-border and cross-governmental solutions that is going to take a lot of time.
And are there tangible solutions being offered by the paper to combat specifically our worsening wildfire seasons?
What really stood out to me was the call for more collaboration with Indigenous communities. Basically, what our science and what oral history is telling us is that returning the land to the state that it was in when Indigenous peoples were the stewards is the solution to managing wildfires. Right now, we just have such thick, dense forests because we're putting out wildfires so quickly. We don't have these natural anchor points when you're fighting fires. And it was interesting for me to learn through Gray that when we have a large fire like the ones burning across BC, we don't have areas like previously burnt land or thinned forests or different kinds of land like grasslands and wetlands like we did generations ago that act as natural stoppage points. And that means fires would only burn for a couple of weeks. Now they're burning for 6 to 8 weeks, as we're seeing across the province. And all we can do is sort of steer them as best we can away from communities. So thinning the forest, managing them, and again, returning that stewardship back to Indigenous peoples, one of the biggest takeaways. Take a listen to Bob about what we should do, though, with all of that fuel once we clear it.
Scale of this is the other big problem. We're talking millions of hectares and millions of tons of biomass. And if we don't do something with it, we convert those millions of tons of biomass into particulate matter, which leads to thousands of premature deaths a year. And it leads to millions more tons of greenhouse gas emissions, which just feeds this positive feedback loop between climate change and wildfires.
So one of the solutions they talk about with all of this biomass, literally clearing the brush and the smaller trees and thinning the branches, turning them into wood pellets for a biofuel, and creating more sustainable building structures in the future. Janella, they are meeting with various levels of government over the next few weeks, and I'll keep you posted.
All right, certainly we'll have to watch and see if officials heed this advice. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.